talk through it. So a lot of the wheat, you guys obviously know wheat planting dates. Last week, October, a little bit of stuff earlier behind corn silage. A lot of this wheat went in the ground. We barely stopped before the snow came up, right? What do you expect out of a situation like that? Anybody who's actually gone out to walk their wheat fields, will realize there's probably some wheat there. Wheat will actually grow beneath the snow, so you cannot see it in the fall, and then it'll actually be there this spring. A lot of times right now, if you go out and it was really late planted a field of wheat, you'll actually find the individual plants. And you would think when you drive by it should be a nice green color, but you'll actually see purple shoots. The individual shoots coming out of the ground will be purple. All that's saying is the wheat has been growing underneath the snow, but it hasn't actually been exposed to sunlight yet. It hasn't produced any pigment from the sun. There's no photosynthesis going on yet. That's why it's purple. All of the growth so far is from the root reserve. So, moral of the story is, all of this wheat, it's impossible to make a call right now. We need to be patient. Some of the poorest looking fields of wheat last year still went 85, 90 bushels of wheat. It's impossible to make the call right now. We need heat. We need to let this stuff grow. Essentially, when you dig up wheat this time of year, the biggest challenge in evaluating wheat stands is not figuring out what's dead and what's alive. The biggest challenge is always spatially figuring out how much of that field is worthwhile keeping and how much of it is done for, right? Anybody in there, anybody that knows about wheat crop can dig up a plant, look at whether this growing point right in here is alive or not. Split it open. If it's white, nice tissue, it's alive. If it's dead brown and decaying, it's dead, right? The biggest challenge is the spatial variability across the field of figuring out how much of that field is good and how much of it is poor. And so when we get into evaluating wheat stands in the spring, my technique, it's nothing complicated. I have a rangefinder like the guys use in golfing. So it estimates number of yards per, yards to, you can shoot it off a tree or a hydro line or something. And what I'll do is I'll shoot that off the tree across the field, and then I will walk in paces. Essentially a pace is a yard, right? And then I will say, count the number of footsteps that fall on poor wheat or good wheat or vice versa, however you figure it out, and then just kind of estimate the percentage of the field that is good or poor based on that, right? So there's you can get the drones out, and there's all kinds of complicated ways you can do it, but you can get within 5 to 10, if you do that 4 or 5 times across the field, you can get within 5 to 10% of how much that field is good or how much of it is poor. It's farming is an art as well as a science, and that's kind of the best we can do. Another thing to consider, obviously, this year is the price of straw. The price of straw on an 80 bushel crop of wheat is probably worth a ton of wheat today, right? So there's lots of opportunity there to increase the revenue from that. In terms of wheat survivability through the winter, I think this planting depth is still something that we're struggling with some. Everybody knows, I think, we want to get wheat in the ground, a good inch. Problem is when we get some of the soybean residue and stuff cluttering the surface, sometimes the best intentions end up a little bit shallow. Shallow planted wheat will be much more prone to winter kill than wheat that's in the ground. Wheat can come up, from 3 inches deep. I'm not saying you should do it, but you shouldn't be afraid to knock her in that extra notch to make sure we're in, good, consistent depth. And these crowns and whatnot are going to be anchored, and you're not going to have slots opening and plants that are even. So, again, be patient. The time will come, but it's not today. Questions about wheat? Yes?
How soon do you put the first shot of nitrogen on?
Everybody has their different theories. My theory with the wheat, the price it is today, assuming that you've got reasonable drainage. If I've got reasonable drainage and I know it went in whatever okay conditions, even if I can't see it, if there's some growth there, I would go early with a shot as soon as the snow is gone, kind of thing, and I've got some growth there. So we're still probably a couple, a week, 2 weeks away maybe when we can get on the ground, either frozen or dry enough that it'll carry the load. Obviously, I just put a little bit on early. You don't need a lot of nitrogen early when you've only got a wee little plant there. There's not really a whole lot of uptake going on. It's more about trying to encourage tillering early. So we want to just you know, with a little shot, kind of encourage things to get going. And then, I mean, if you can get on early, it's the prime candidate for a year when you can split nitrogen, right? Splitting nitrogen, the further apart you can do it, the more bang for a buck you get. Once you get past, I would say the 20th to 25th of April, I don't think there's a whole lot of point in splitting your N. If you can get on the ground before then, yes, splitting your N is the way to go.